We've been looking at the struggles we've gone through in order to get an English Bible. We've gone back to the days of John Wycliffe. We've gone through the days of William Tyndale. And remember William Tyndale's last and closing prayer, "Lord, open the King of England's eyes." That was very quickly answered by the Lord, because a man working with him by the name of John Rogers picked up his pen, finished the translation of Hebrew in the Old Testament, and then took the documents and of all places sent them to England. And when the printer received them, he was so impressed by them, he sent them to the Archbishop of Canterbury in an effort to get approval to have them openly published. The Archbishop of Canterbury attempted to get the King of England to approve it, and he accomplished it. And it's really a miracle, because if you look at the end of the book of Malachi, William Tyndale's initials are as big as they can be. A man that was persecuted by the King of England and now approved for publication with his initials on it. However, there were footnotes and they were very strong. In fact, they were so strong that the Secretary of State was afraid the king would withdraw approval unless they were changed. So another Bible had to be brought about. Miles Coverdale had taken and edited that edition, had softened the footnotes, and what's called the Great Bible was then published. The Great Bible was required by the King of England to be posted in every parish church, available for anybody to read whenever they wanted to read it, a reader provided if they could not read. And of all things, on the title page was the name Cuthbert, a bishop. Who is he? He's none other than Bishop Tunstall, the man that had burned Tyndale's Bibles. Here's Tyndale's Bible in a new form, and his name is on the title page approving its publication. All of that happened with this great Bible in 1539, only 3 years after William Tyndale had burned to death at the stake. This brings us down to the King James Version of the Bible and its translation. Back in 1604, when it was agreed upon by King James, he appointed Richard Bancroft, who was then the Bishop of London and later became the Archbishop of Canterbury. He first selected 3 men to help him. Those 3 men were taken as academicians, first from the city of Oxford, then from here at Westminster, and then finally from Cambridge University. Their job then was to put together a collection of men who would be capable of undertaking the task. We don't know how many people were really involved in the translating. We know that there were between 50 and 60, but beyond that we really do not know. These men were then taken from the 3 different centres, Oxford, Cambridge, and at Westminster. They were divided into 2 different groups, those who were proficient in Greek and those who were proficient in Hebrew. They were then divided into these 3 different segments, constituting 6 different committees. Then the Bible was taken and it was divided up into 6 different parts, including the apocryphal books. These parts were then distributed equally between Oxford, Cambridge, and Westminster. And then the men went to work at doing their translating. Once a man had finished one of the jobs, he was then to read it before the entire committee, and whatever was finally decided upon must be agreed upon by the committee. Sometimes they had to listen to as many as 13 variant readings of one particular passage before they made a decision. And then finally, their decisions being made, they handed all of their material down to 2 appointed men who gave the final editing to the work. These 2 men had made many changes. They then handed it over to Bancroft again, the Archbishop of Canterbury, and Bancroft made 15 different changes after that. And that's how we finally got our King James Version of the Bible. You may ask the question, why have we spent so much time dealing with William Tyndale when our interest really is in the 1611 King James Version of the Bible? And the answer to that is that the King James Version of the Bible is permeated by William Tyndale. It's stated by those that have studied it that very little change was made either in the New Testament or in the Pentateuch on what William Tyndale had written. It came down virtually unchanged. The vast majority of scholars believe that 90% of both of those passages are really William Tyndale coming down. Imagine that. I mean, 50 to 60 of the greatest intellects of their day. 6 different years in 6 different committees. And what they have produced is very little changeable to what was given to us by William Tyndale. We can't pay a big enough tribute to William Tyndale. However, that brings us now to the fact that in 1611 we have a Bible in English approved by the King, the work of the scholars of their generation, and accepted worldwide. That's the story of our English Bible and how it came to us. That's the story of the men who were behind it and the price that they paid. Very difficult to look at the Bible without realizing every page was soaked in blood, and those letters ought to be printed in gold. I hope you own an English Bible. I hope you read it every day. God bless you.